Hi, my name is Wendy Gratz from Shiny Happy World, and today I'm going to talk to you about choosing a sewing machine for a beginning sewer. This is my sewing machine, and I love it, but it's very fancy, and it is far more fancy than you need for a beginning sewer. You really don't want to get a machine like this until you know that you're going to be using it almost every day. You also don't want to go to the other extreme and get a toy sewing machine. There's a lot of toy sewing machines out on the market for children that say that they are real sewing machines, and they do sew a real two-thread stitch, but they're junk. They're just absolute junk, and you don't want to waste your time on them. So I advise getting an actual real sewing machine, but just a regular one. And what I'm going to talk to you about today are the features that you do really need to have on that machine. And luckily, they are on almost all machines. If you want to save a little bit of money, you can definitely buy a used machine. Whether you're buying a used machine or a new machine, you're looking for the same kind of things and you want to test out the same things. So you definitely want to try out your machine before you buy it. Again, whether it's new or used. And that means actually sewing something. So I'm going to run some stitches and show you what to look for. The first thing you want to do is listen to the sound of that machine. It didn't sound grindy or loud or thumping. It didn't have any kind of a ticking sound or anything like that. You want it to just sound like a smooth machine. Then you're also going to want to look at the stitches that you just sewed. So after you've run a line of stitches and listened to the sound of the motor, you want to actually look at those stitches. What you're looking for is even length. If you have one stitch that's twice as long as the others, that means it's skipping a stitch, and that's just a recipe for disaster. That's going to lead to lots and lots of trouble down the road. You're also going to want to look at the back side. The stitches should basically look the same front and back. You don't want loops or anything like that hanging out on the back. So just look and make sure that the stitching is even and seems smooth. So after you've listened to the sound of the machine and taken a look at the basic stitching, you're ready to look a little bit closer at things. Don't be seduced by hundreds and hundreds of available stitches. It's kind of like cable, where there's lots and lots of stuff that you're never going to use. There's really only two stitches that you're going to use, and that's a straight stitch and a zigzag stitch. Everything else is just extra. Luckily for you, the symbols that are used to describe the different stitches are universal, so it'll be the same symbols on all different machines. The one symbol that you are absolutely looking for is this number 1. That's your straight stitch, that's a basic stitch, and every machine is going to have it. The other stitch that you use a lot is a zigzag stitch, so that's one that I really wouldn't get a machine without a zigzag stitch. Again though, almost every machine is going to have that. There's one other stitch that I use fairly frequently, and that is a stretch stitch. You don't have to have it. You can use a zigzag stitch to sew a stretchy seam on stretch fabric, but the stretch stitch is really nice. Another one that a lot of people ask about is the buttonhole stitch. You do not need a buttonhole stitch. You can use a zigzag to sew buttonholes, and in fact I get better results when I use a zigzag stitch than I do when I use the fancy buttonhole stitch. So those are the stitches that you're looking for, a straight stitch and a zigzag stitch. Stretch stitch is nice but not necessary, and everything else is just extra stitches. One other thing you really want to be able to do is sew backwards. That's a way to knot your stitches at the beginning or the end of a seam. So you're going to look for a button something like this. On newer machines it's going to be a button with this symbol. On older machines, it'll be something else, and that's not standard. And on very, very, very old machines, they won't have it. But pretty much any machine is going to have it. But just make sure that you can sew backwards. You'll want to be able to backstitch. The next thing you want to look at is how the machine is threaded. Threading a sewing machine is actually fairly complicated, but newer machines make it a lot easier. Some of them will have numbers along the way to show you the path that the thread needs to take. Some of them will have a little diagram shown on the side of the machine. They're all different, so I'm not going to bother showing you that on mine, but just get the person who's selling you the machine to show you how to thread it and try it yourself. It's going to feel clumsy and uncomfortable, but You'll get used to it, but just know how difficult it is to thread first. One nice feature that the newer machines have is that there's almost nothing that you have to thread the thread through. There are little notches and slots and things so that it just kind of slides into place. And if you have difficulty threading through a hole, or if your child has difficulty threading the needle through a hole, that might be something you want to look for. Another thing that we're going to look at is the bobbin. There are two basic kinds of bobbin mechanisms. The bobbin is what holds the thread that's coming up from the bottom of your machine. A sewing machine works by locking two threads together, a top thread and a bottom thread. So there are two ways that the bobbin thread goes into the machine. My machine is a front-loading bobbin, and my daughter's machine is a drop-in bobbin, and I'm going to show you both of those so that you'll know what you're looking at. I think that a front-loading bobbin sews a little bit smoother, but a drop-in bobbin is easier to load, so you're just going to need to decide which of those is most important to you. So I'm going to show you right now how to load a front-loading bobbin. You swing the door open, pop this door open, and then this is the bobbin case. See, there's a little lever here. You pull out on the lever. I'm going to unthread it right now. So this is the bobbin case, and this is actually the bobbin. You're going to put the bobbin into the case, thread the thread up through that slot, and then underneath here so it's coming out that notch, and then I always just kind of pull on it and make sure that it's pulling smoothly. And then you put this back in, thread it onto the little shaft there, then you pull out on the little lever, push the whole mechanism in till it clicks, and you've got your bobbin in. So this is my daughter's machine, and it has a drop-in bobbin, much easier to load. So you pull open the little door, get your bobbin, and you just drop it in to the hole there. There's a tiny little slot, and you want to make the thread go through that slot, and then you can see when you pull on it, it spins the bobbin, and you're done. The last thing you want to look for is a machine that's controlled with a foot pedal. Every once in a while you'll find a machine that's controlled with a knee pedal or something else, but a foot pedal is much easier for children and really any beginners to sew. I would never sew with anything else. So that's what you're looking for when you buy a sewing machine. One more thing though about where to buy them. I don't recommend buying from a big box store. If you can, go to a sewing machine store. They're often a sewing machine and vacuum store. That's the place that's going to repair your machine. You're going to take it in regularly to have it cleaned. Sewing is a very linty business, and you can do some cleaning yourself, but you need to have it professionally cleaned every so often. They'll also give you a free demonstration on how to thread it, how to do your maintenance. They'll really help you out, and it's a great resource to have. So try and give your business to a local sewing machine store, and if you buy your machine used from somebody, the first thing you want to do with it is bring it into your local sewing machine store and have them clean it and service it, make sure everything's running beautifully, and they'll also give you a lesson on how to thread it and how to do the maintenance for it. One thing that I almost forgot, if you're buying a used machine, make sure it has a manual. You will definitely want your sewing machine manual. That's going to give you the instructions on a lot of basic things that are specific to your machine. So go out and buy your machine and then come back here and I will show you how to use it. My name's Wendy, and you can find me at shinyhappyworld.com. Thanks!